Well, hello. I figured since I'm in quarantine, I might as well use this time to continue to try to put ideas out in the world for those who might be interested in hearing my ideas, which are really just a synthesis of things that I'm obviously consuming from different sources and my own ponderings in isolation, which is really all ideas are anyway. I came across this today on the Facebook, and it's from someone called Anna Karenina, but it's K with an asterisk Renina. It's a tweet, I guess. That really sums up, I think, a lot of what I feel and have been feeling for quite some time. It says, the truth is that the majority of people who would have turned out for Bernie and who now won't turn out at all aren't even on Twitter. They are in neighborhoods and cities around the country that have been abandoned by Democrats, and the people yelling at me won't go there either. And it's so true. And this is the bullshit. Like, when I'm on social media and I'm getting people attacking me, like someone just said white male privilege to me on a post, which was, I'm like, didn't we retire that in the Warren days of the presidential campaign, calling white men, white men, basically, or saying, you're just saying Warren's bad because white male privilege. Okay, all right, whatever. These fake arguments, these weaponizing identity politics arguments that these fucking liberal idiots will do. And so that tweet sums up so much for me, because earlier in the presidential campaign cycle, I went and did door knocking for Bernie in 3 different states. I went to New Hampshire, I went to South Carolina, and I went to Massachusetts. And I've noticed the pattern that I've seen so many times before, but I saw in I guess, a different way, which is just how easily people are manipulated by corporate framings of the world, corporate media framing, and capitalism, and how it teaches us to try to want to be an individual that is somehow special and more special than others, and blah, 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 all that crap. And I was going into communities that, your run-of-the-mill Democrat wouldn't go into. So I was doing the actual work of democracy, knocking on doors and talking to people about the election and about, obviously, Bernie, because that's who I was there to represent and advocate for. And there were no other campaigns in a lot of these places. That's not 100%. There were places that we went to where you would have, door knockers for Warren, or Pete Buttigieg had these ridiculous stick-it notes, which just shows you what a fucking corporate piece of shit tool he is, that he would use stick-it notes on people's doors as his little leave behind, his little literature. But it's amazing to me that we're going into this transition now into the general election with Biden, who's a rapist and a racist, as I said yesterday, and the people who are complaining about people like me, working class people, raising our voices and naming that fact, and they're the people who aren't doing shit. They're not out there door knocking. They're not phone banking for Biden, for whoever their candidate was before him, whatever flavor of the month they were pretending to get behind. So I have no interest in those types of people. Their I don't care about their voices. I don't care what they have to say. They're, again, like I said yesterday, these are the trash people that really are, or what makes the Democratic Party as a whole trash, the power structure of it. So I just disregard those people's voices. But what's interesting for me personally, and part of where a lot of this comes from, and if you know me, I've probably said this to you a million times. In 2011 to 2000, I'm very sinusy today, like most days, actually. 2011 to 2013, I walked across the country, and one of the things I noticed, and it's come back to me during this election cycle, actually, I'm like reminded of this was, you know, I go from a city to the next town out, which was like 20 miles. I'd walk about 20 miles a day, and then I would go to the next town out from there, and then to the next town out from there. And every 20 miles, as you would go from town to town, you would see the same pattern over across the whole country. You would have, of course, whatever's going on in the city. And then outside of that, you would start to see, of course, the suburbs, and you would see the big box stores, the Walmarts, like, you know, like Sam's Club, all that crap. And then you go 40 miles out, you'd have maybe some box stores here and there, maybe, but more you would start to see kind of like just smaller towns. Things were just kind of, most of the time, just disheveled, not completely dilapidated. That was reserved for like 60 miles out from a city. It's like true rural America. Complete dilapidation. And in those real dilapidated places, you would have a Subway, and you would have like a Family Dollar or a Dollar General, and a lot of little towns, and that's it. You wouldn't have any other services. Like most of the little bit like storefronts in downtown would be shut down, or they might be like a couple thrift stores, or just like really depressed. No healthcare, no nothing. And this is coast to coast, and this is capitalism's achievement. This is what's happened in my lifetime as someone who's 43 years old, where globalization has led to this type of predatory behavior that has transformed our whole country, to the point where everywhere is a depressed economy now. In cities, in rural spaces, everything. Because in cities, what's happened is just like rents have just skyrocketed, cost of living has gone up, incomes, of course, we know haven't gone up with that. And then in rural places, there's no jobs unless you want to work at the fucking Subway or Family Dollar, which will pay you shit and treat you like a piece of shit. And then in the suburbs, you get to work at Walmart, which is a piece of shit company too. So, and then of course we see what's happening now in the economy with Amazon and their predatory practices and taking over the whole retail world. And so when people online try to get at me and try to pretend like they know more than I do about what's going on in this world and try to shame me or call me, I mean, of course, I've been called the Russian bot, and I'm a Bernie bro, and of course, you know, I'm a white man, I'm a privileged white man. And it's so fascinating because, like, I understand more about intersectionality than these people ever will. Ever. They're faking it. Oftentimes, they're part of the power structures. They're part of the nonprofit industrial complex. They're part of these systems that are still being barely propped up. In a fucking pandemic, they're still saying this shit to me. And so it was great to like have that tweet be one of the first things I saw today as I continue to engage online and anywhere, you know, like just on the phone with friends or whatever about what's really going on in this world. And we're seeing with this last CARES Act, of course, we know there's another massive power transfer being going to the wealthy. And so now, of course, we're left with these questions about, well, what do we do now? Because those of us who are conscious and aware and who are actually directly affected, like more than others, by what's happening, you know, there's a lot of fear going around. How do you act in a pandemic when you're shut in? And I think like one of the things that we see is that there are the people who really matter are the frontline workers that are striking all over the country now, and we need to support them. They are the leaders that we've been looking for. People who work at the grocery store, people who work at the Amazon, warehouses, people who work at Walmart. These are the leaders. These are the people whose voices need to be the ones we're deferring to. So there's like, I'm going to put some links in the bottom of this video. There's some mutual aid groups. There's tons of stuff happening, right? Mutual aid, there's support for like Amazon workers who want to be whistleblowers. Like there's funds now for those people. We need to just channel our resources there, I think, and just help anyone who's in greatest need and who's also risking something right now, especially if they're risking, like if they're protesting at their workplace or whatever. Like we just need to channel our energy towards them and do everything we can to support them. And let that be what kind of moves us forward, I think. And a lot of these online types of personalities, again, the people who wouldn't go walk a neighborhood and knock on doors anyway, because they're trash people, let them just stew online and do their stupid bullshit. Engage them if you want, don't if you don't want to. I've kind of finally gotten to a point where I'm like, I engage them sometimes I don't. I tell them they're trash people, they don't like that, they pitch a fit, whatever. But it's all part of this too, in the end of the day. Like, as we're doing whatever we're doing to just be honest and open and communicating with people, we're also then at the same exact time building up the actual power, being part of the actual power structure that will shift and move us forward. And anyone who considers themselves a progressive needs to do that, desperately needs to do that, because what will happen is if we don't do it, it's going to start happening in other weird places, and it already is, and we're seeing this happening on the right a little bit in the Republican Party, and that's dangerous because that can lead us deeper down a road of fascism, because then all of a sudden if people are getting basic human rights through that lens comes with all kinds of other poison that we're not bringing to the table. We just want people to have health care, to have a job guarantee, a living wage, safe housing, like basic human rights, safe food. I mean, this is the foundation of the Sanders campaign. This is the foundation, really, that anyone who has a decent human being should want for themselves, and of course, and for everyone else. So that's kind of my rant for today on that. I really love that tweet. It really is. I needed to read that today. I really did, because I have, over the past 24 hours specifically, even had some more communications with these Biden bros, these rape apologists, who are just vile people. And it was great and I thought about that before, and I was doing the door knocking back during the campaign. I was definitely conscious of that back then too, but it was great to have that tweet today. I think that's it. I had wrote a few notes today to have a few things. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to rant about, and that is, and this is why I think it's so important to be honest and open and have these conversations with people that about politics, about life, about what's happening around us, and just be as honest as possible. Because one of the things that I saw when doing the door knocking for Bernie was really how powerful the corporate media is. I didn't even realize. I mean, I knew how powerful it was. It's what led me to do a lot of the work that I've done by getting out there in communities and just directly interacting with people. Like when I did my cross country walk, when I performed, my whole In Our Words project was designed to take people's real stories and then perform real stories. And inourwords.org, you can go and read some of those stories. Because I was so frustrated a decade ago about like turning on the television and seeing bullshit coming out of any of these corporate media outlets. And so it was fascinating. So one of the things that I saw as a pattern, in all three states, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Massachusetts, knock on someone's door. If they're there, they open it. Most of the time they'll answer. And talking to them, and it changed by state based on where we were in the campaign cycle. So when I was in New Hampshire, the week before the primary, I would ask people, I'd tell them I'm here to, to talk to them about Bernie Sanders. It's who I'm, knocking doors for in this campaign. And then I would ask them if they had thought about who they might support in the presidential primary. And a lot of times they'd be like, oh, I'm not really sure. I'm kind of just like, I don't know, I'm thinking about Bernie. A lot of people would say that. And I'm also, and this was New Hampshire specifically, I'm thinking about that Pete Buttigieg guy. That was most of what you would hear. And often when this happened so many times, I'd be talking to these people, and right over their shoulder, they'd have the TV on. And what channel do you think it would be on? Which one of the two channels do you think it would be on? Yeah, CNN or MSNBC. And whose face often was on that fucking TV would be goddamn racist piece of shit Pete Buttigieg. His face would be on the TV. And often when I would start to then go into the next part about like, what makes them want to, support Pete over Bernie, or, what makes them even consider Pete and Bernie, like a lot of what they would say next was, well, I just want someone to beat Trump. And, it seems like he's probably like, and sometimes I would like look over their shoulder, kind of bring reference that I'm literally seeing what they're watching on TV. And often people would be like, they would recognize it as like, oh, I mean, yeah, you see, I know, he's on TV, I see it, but I don't watch Fox News. That's what they would say. And this is the biggest manipulation happening right now with people who are Democratic voters, is they don't realize how much they're being lied to by CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, all that corporate media that's been consolidated over the past 20, 30 years through different pieces of legislation that have allowed there to be now 90% of media controlled by only 6 companies. That we can 90% of all media, because look at it, ABC is also Disney, it's also ESPN, you can go down the list with any of them. They're all like super consolidated. And of course, that does play, I think, a bigger role than I think we even realize. I don't think it's the only thing. Of course, I think people are very afraid, but it's all these miscalculations that people have. And this is why I think Biden will most likely lose to Trump, is that people have a miscalculation of what electable is. And there's so much poison coming at them through the corporate sphere, and they're not like people like me. And they're not the people that these motherfuckers online are talking to. These fucking white collar, centrist pieces of shit. So I think, I'm sounding these alarms now. I don't know what that means. I don't know where we're gonna go. I think this is why I think like, let's support people doing action in the streets always. But also right now during a pandemic, that's where we have that's a huge power center. So let's fund them, let's help them out. If you are able to join them on the picket line and be socially distanced with them, if that's even something that they would even want, because a lot of it's like, no, we can do this. There's a lot of like smaller protests, but literally shutting down like grocery store at a time or warehouse at a time or whatever. Like, let's do that because we can, and that's really powerful. That's very powerful. And it also realigns, again, like our values as to who's important in our society, who are actually literally keeping us alive right now in this moment. And maybe that will also carry forward as well. For those of us who are conscious of that, and again, as I've said before, of good moral character, we hopefully will carry that forward and realign, our own priorities. So like, I know after I'm done with this video, I'm gonna go make a small donation, do what I can do, specifically to the Amazon support, like whistleblower support network that's been established. I'll put these links in the video below. I don't know. Who knows if I'll do more of these videos. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. If you like this video, I guess I'm supposed to say like it. If you want to subscribe, I guess subscribe. Isn't that what all of these YouTubers say? Anyway, that's my rant for today. It gives me something to do, and hopefully there's something in here that was useful for you.